What is up, nerds? It is Reptile DIY here again, and today we are taking it in a different direction and reviewing the best and worst boots most typically worn in the punk scene. So let's get this shit started. Alright, let's talk boots. I'm going to preface this video by stating that this is just my subjective opinion from my own experience being in the punk scene since 2005-2006. This is by no means a word of law, but just my experience-backed opinion with wearing numerous different kinds of boots for 18 years. That being said, feel free to share your own experiences down below. So we are going to do today's video with a tier list, ranking boot brands that are common in the punk/alternative scene. For those unfamiliar with the tier list, it is pretty self-explanatory. S is top tier quality boots, A is great boots, B is decent quality boots, C is middle quality boots, and D is overall poor quality boots. Also guys, I am mainly going to be focusing on boots that you would see in the punk and punk adjacent scenes. If you are watching this video in hopes of learning about platform goth boots, then unfortunately this video is not for you. So now that that is out of the way, let's kick this tier list off with probably the very first boots that most punks own, which are military surplus jump boots. Specifically, I am talking about the Corcoran brand boots, but these can be any military surplus boots that are typically 8 to 12 eyelets with a steel toe. These boots are extremely durable, sometimes surpassing more mainstream brands like Doc Martens and Grinders in quality. They are also very cheap and easily bought at military surplus websites, military surplus stores, and readily available at thrift stores. I have seen these boots as cheap as $15 at thrift stores in the past. And you guys know me and how much I prefer to upcycle second-hand clothing. These jump-style military boots gained popularity in the scene back in the 1980s and 1990s as an easily accessible boot choice before the internet made ordering brands like Doc Martens as easy as it is now. In fact, if you look at old photos of punks, a lot of them are wearing military-style jump boots. My main concern with these boots are age, as they are old military stock boots and wear and tear may vary from boot to boot, so be advised when buying a pair. That being said, military jump boots, specifically the Corcoran brand, will be put in our S tier, based on quality, durability, and a low price range. Plus, upcycling unwanted clothing is a pillar of DIY punk ethics. Our next brand is the Cadillac, our Lamborghinis, if you will, of punk boots, which is, of course, Doc Martens. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to split Doc Martens into two separate categories. Our first half are the made-in-England Doc Martens, which are a head and shoulders above their Asian sweatshop-produced counterparts. When it comes to quality, you can tell the difference of Doc Martens by the made-in-England stamp on the bottom of boots made in the UK. Doc Martens were originally made in England from day one up until the mid-2000s when they switched production offshore into Asia. Apparently, they still have a factory in the UK making boots, but currently most Doc Martens will be sweatshop-made products. Speaking of sweatshop-made Doc Martens, in the mid to late 2000s, Doc Martens shifted from the traditional 8 to 14 eyelet boot style worn by punks, skins, and rockers in favor of a more artsy style boot, marketed at a more general consumer. Over time, Doc Martens ditched their steel toes, the taller eyelet model like the famous 14 eyelet 1940 model favored by punks and skins, in favor of flower print boots, neon boots, boots with side zippers for a less dedicated wearer, boots with unnecessary straps, and boots with double-stacked high-rise soles. The Doc Martens consumer base mainly consists of art students, e-girls, goths, and a general population that recognizes the cultural relevancy of a brand name like Doc Marten. No shade though, this is exactly what makes them a successful brand. And I cannot imagine running a company solely marketing your products to a continually aging niche consumer base of punks and skinheads. Of course, offshoring production has drastically lowered Doc Marten quality, as most people that have worn UK-made and sweatshop-made Doc Martens will tell you. That being said, modern Doc Martens do offer a vegan 8-eyelet boot, which is cool if you're into that kind of thing. although I will be bringing up a top quality vegan boot later on in the video. That being said, me, like the majority of unk punks out there, will highly recommend that if you want to buy Doc Martens, then absolutely try to find old stock, made in England Doc Martens, as the quality is superior, and the majority of traditionally preferred boot models are currently no longer in production. Personally, I am not a big fan of Doc Martens, as they are absolutely terrible boot for traction in winter, although I do enjoy the comfortability of the airwear bouncing soles, and there is just something timeless about that classic yellow stitching. So for made in England Doc Martens, we are putting them on the A tier, and the sweatshop made Doc Martens will be going on the C tier. In the end, Doc Martens are just a brand status symbol that has outgrown the subculture that it took root in. If you are a punk or someone in a related alternative subculture and you are looking for boots, I would skip Doc Martens entirely, unless of course you can find some old stock boots for a decent price. Speaking of Doc Martens, I absolutely have to bring up the Solovair boot brand. Solovair boots are currently made in one of the original UK factories that produced Doc Marten boots way back when. That being said, Solovair is to Doc Martens as to what Lexus is to Toyota. Solovair is a higher end boot with quality that brings a whole other level of craftsmanship to their brand that, in my opinion, dwarfs even the made in England Doc Martens. Of course, with higher quality boots comes a higher price point, but if you are looking for some long-term, high-quality Doc Martens style boots, I would skip Doc Martens entirely and invest in a pair of Solovair boots. Although I do have to admit, I have never owned a pair of Solovair boots, I have heard nothing but greatness from the brand. Personally, I prefer the look of Ranger boots to that of the Doc Martens style boots. Otherwise, my next pair of boots would absolutely be Solovair boots. So I'm going to place Solovair boots on the S tier. Continuing on, we are going to talk about Ranger boots. Ranger boots are my personal go-to for boot styles. They are loosely based on historic military-style jump or paratrooper boots, but with beefier soles and an added height with 10 to 20 eyelets, which gives them a more aggressive demeanor. All of the boots in the next section will be Ranger boots. There are numerous brands of Ranger boots, but I will go over the ones that I have experience with. So to start off, we have Grinders boots. Now this is just my experience, but old stock Grinders, more specifically talking about the Grinders with the gears stamped into the soles, are absolutely terrible boots. Every single person that I have known in the scene that have owned these old style Grinder boots have had the soles completely detached from the boots. And while yes, you can resole boots, and I do have a video on DIY fixing your boot soles, the link will be in the description down below. The fact is that such a common occurrence with these old style Grinders is a problem. So I'm placing these old style Grinders on the D tier. That being said, Grinders are now being made with traditional lug soles, and they have an extremely cheap selling price. My current pair of Grinders have made it 5 years of wear and tear, as you can see, and I have nothing to complain about for a low-cost boot, so I am putting modern Grinders on the B tier. At the end of the day, when buying Grinders, make sure to only buy the lug sole variant of Grinders, and completely avoid the old stock Grinders that have the gears stamped into the sole. Moving into the next brand, we have Stihl Boots. Stihl Boots are an Eastern European company, and they are extremely popular, with numerous color choices to choose from, and numerous eyelet choices as well. They are exactly the kind of company that fans of Ranger boots need. Now, I got my pair of Stihl boots back in 2009, and I was extremely excited to buy them. Unfortunately, the tongue ripped out within a week of wear, and when I reached out to Stihl via email, I was essentially left with a "lol, tough luck kid" kind of response. By the end of my first year wearing them, the seams at the back of both heels were split open and the leather around the toes of the boots were opening up. Towards the end of their lifespan, I was wearing the better of the two Stihl boots on my right foot and the better off of my two sweatshop Doc Martens on my left foot. I eventually just threw my Stihl boots into a shoe tree to get rid of them. That being said, this is just my personal experience with Stihl boots, and I can only hope that they have increased in quality in the 16 years since I bought my first pair. I am going to put my Stihl boots on the D tier, but let me know if you guys have any experience with Stihl boots. I would absolutely love to hear some redeemable user experiences from their brand. Next up, I'm going to bring up Demania boots. Now, Demania essentially started off as a more consumer-friendly version of the lofty, expensive goth boot brands like New Rock in the 2000s. They were usually cheaper boots made with lower quality, but a high selling point was the absolute plethora of different styles to choose from, ranging from goth platforms to ranger boots, and I believe even creepers. Personally, in the mid-2000s, I wore Demania ranger boots. In fact, my first 2 pair of boots were Demania, and I still have my very first pair from 2006, as you can see here. With alternative culture surging in the 2020s, Demania have gained popularity and, in my opinion, have eclipsed the brands that they sought out to compete against, not only in relevancy, but sales as well. I would, however, avoid Demanias that have side zippers, as they are uncomfortable and a major point of malfunction in the boots. I would highly recommend the 2000s Demania Riot model Ranger boots, especially the ones with a bronze plate in the sole like my trusty 10 eyelets from 2006. Demania also offers a vegan boot as well. I'm going to place Demania solidly on the B tier. Now, we are going to talk about grip-fast boots, and honestly, I do not have much to say here. Grip-fast are the Ranger boots, as Solovair boots are the Doc Martens. Grip-fast are the highest-end Ranger boots made with the best quality materials. They, of course, will cost quite a bit, but they are well worth the investment if you are looking for some high-quality, long-term boots. When I finish up with my 1964 Impala project and have the extra funds, I would like to invest in a nice quality pair of grip-fast boots. I'm not going to talk much more about grip-fast, but I'm going to place them on the S tier where they rightfully belong. Now we have the vegetarian shoe brand, Airsil Ranger boots. These come in 10 and 14 eyelet models, and they have steel toes. They also have the comfort of Doc Marten style air soles with the practicality of lug soles, which is something that I wish more boot brands would incorporate. These boots do cost a bit, but I've heard nothing but positive reviews with vegetarian boot brand. With that being said, I am placing vegetarian boots on the A tier. These next few brands of Ranger boots I am not going to rate, as I have never worn these boots and I have heard very little about them. But some other Ranger boot brands to look out for are Branded, Knightsbridge, Nevermind, Boots and Braces, and Underground Boots. Like I said, I have not worn any of these boots, but definitely keep your eyes open for them. And let me know your personal experience if you are wearing them. Alright nerds, to finish this video up, I'm going to bring up some non-traditional boot styles that you might also find interesting. To start off, we have biker and engineer boots. Both styles are pulled-up boots, which makes them easier to put on. They come in soft and steel-toe variants, and there are numerous different brands. My personal favorite brands in this category are Ride Tech and Old Stock Harley-Davidson boots. Vegetarian shoes also have a vegan version of engineer boots if you are interested. There is also a weird amalgamation of engineer boots called tanker boots that are pull-up boots with straps that I think look very cool, and you could probably track some down via military surplus websites. I also have to mention Lineman, Logger, and Pole Climber boots, which are probably going to be the best boot for your buck, as they are legitimate work boots. Also, if I was traveling by foot or rail, like a lot of you kids do, I would absolutely wear a pair of lineman boots, as opposed to Doc Martens or even Ranger boots, as lineman boots are made to be on your feet working class boots, as opposed to a visual appealing non-safety steel-toe boot like Doc Martens or Ranger boots. Some lineman boot brands to look out for are Red Wings, Carolinas, Red Dog, and Westco boots. Some important notes to consider when buying boots is to avoid zipper boots at all costs. In my personal opinion, zipper boots are uncomfortable and usually break. If you don't want to tie boots, then definitely buy some Vans or Chucks. Also, be aware that when buying old or used boots, the possibility of glue cracking and the soles coming off is increased. I do have a tutorial showing you guys how to reseal your boots at home for cheap. Another thing to keep in mind is to keep your leather moisturized and conditioned. This will help stop cracking, flaking, and the leather from falling apart. This is especially helpful on old pairs of boots. I also have a video on making boot straps to spice up your new pair of boots. And I have another video showing you guys how to turn motorcycle boots into the classic metal plate shin guard boots made famous by the Mad Max film series, among numerous other tutorials showcasing my 18 years of DIY punk knowledge, showing you all how to make your own punk, goth, and alternative clothes and gear. Links will be in the description down below, and make sure to hit that button. But for real, guys, this is all just my opinions with 18 years experience wearing boots. I'd love to hear your opinions down below. Until next time, see you later, nerds. Hey, thank you guys for watching to the very end of the video. I'm going to start doing a new segment at the end of every tutorial or video that I make, where I talk about one of my favorite YouTubers or distro shops online. This week, we are going to be checking out the Leather Weapon Gear Distro. I will be linking their Instagram and all their store links down below. They make some awesome quality leatherworking, and I could not recommend them enough. Definitely check these guys out, give them a follow,